aura began to appear around him. He then said with a smile that behold, he now had an 8th rank. The prince was shocked to think that he'd broken through. What could be more ridiculous than that? By comprehending various schools and development techniques, collecting them and forming their own school, people reached the 8th rank. And he just closed and opened his eyes. That's how people usually sleep, not break through. And yet after he opened his eyes, he confidently declared that he had reached the 8th rank. The deputy head shockedly asked, "What did that one break through?" The head replied that it was true. The aura around him was clearly that of an 8th rank master. Master Guan added that he had done it so easily, while he thought about the fact that he had seen people who worked hard and eventually reached the 8th rank after gaining enlightenment. Jia Yecheng thought in surprise. He had heard of people who went into seclusion for countless years and eventually succeeded. But to close one's eyes for a moment and achieve a breakthrough, this was the first time anyone had ever seen or heard of something like this. The man asked, "Did this really happen?" Mo Yu, who was also surprised, asked, "Is the teacher really amazing?" Grandmaster Zhen thought about the fact that just last night, he had advised Brother Zhang to train hard and gain experience, or else he wouldn't be able to achieve a breakthrough. However, now he had done it so easily in front of everyone. Could it be that the elder had already had the opportunity to achieve a breakthrough yesterday, but had deliberately suppressed his development to spare his dignity? If so, it was the opposite. This blow was much worse. Zhang asked excitedly. Now that he had reached the 8th rank, he could be admitted to the 2-star Grandmaster exam, right? Grandmaster Wu replied that yes, he had fulfilled this condition. But that prince irritably asked, "So what if that prince had reached the 8th rank? His soul depth is only 5.1. As long as he doesn't reach 6.0, he is not eligible to take the exam." The guy thought to himself that if he was to confront him, he would confront him to the end. And Mo Yu guiltily thought about the fact that her brother was not at all afraid of more humiliation from teacher Zhang. Grandmaster Wu told the guy that there was actually a condition that one's soul depth had to reach at least 6.0 before one could take the 2-star Grandmaster exam. Zhang answers that he had been told this, and then he added with a smile that it was indeed a cause for concern, but let them take their time one moment. The prince was surprised to think that unlike spiritual development, soul depth can only be slowly raised over time. He doesn't believe that a moment is enough for his soul depth to reach 6.0. Zhang turned to Zhang Shu, telling him to come over here for a bit. Grandmaster Wu and the prince were shocked to think that this was the head of their Grandmaster Pavilion. Zhang Zheng shouted to Zhang Xuan asking, "What is he up to?" His father's a 2-star Grandmaster, the head of the Grandmaster Pavilion. Who is he to give him orders? Zhang grudgingly asked the man that he was his father. The man shouted that he was. Zhang told him to step aside because he needed to talk to his father. The man wanted to shout something else, but his father told him to step aside. The head then asked Master Zhang if he could know the reason why the latter had called him. The latter asked with a smile. Was it true that he had recognized Grandmaster Yang as his teacher yesterday? The man, shocked, replied that he did. How would he know? He thought about the fact that he had not told anyone about the events that had happened last night. Grandmaster Wu, shocked, asked that the head of Jiang Pavilion recognize someone as his teacher. And the prince asked that to become the teacher of the head of Jiang Pavilion, that person's ability must be higher than a 2-star Grandmaster. And Zhang said with a smile that he was Zhang Huang, a direct disciple of Mr. Yang. Following the custom, he should call him elder brother. To Jiang Cheng, this was a staggering blow. Was he thinking about being serious? When did his father recognize someone as his teacher? Besides, if the one is his father's older brother, who is he himself? A nephew? The pavilion head asked, is the one who is Grandmaster Yang's direct disciple. No wonder he is so formidable despite his age. He is also a disciple of his master, Zhang said with a smile. The teacher told him that the man had encountered some problem while practicing and it had traumatized him. The one instructed him to give the man a development technique and said that by following it, he would heal his injuries. His development wouldn't take long. Zhang Shu thought about that yesterday when the teacher pointed out his problem. He thought that he would have to do a few things for his teacher before he could start the treatment. He didn't expect that the teacher would send Zhang Huang to convey the solution to him. Zhang moved closer to the man, telling him to listen carefully. Then he mentally transmitted information to him, which the man was shocked by. In the next instant, the man got down on one knee in front of the guy and thanked the elder for passing this development technique to him. The masters began to ask, did Pavilion Head Zhang really kneel down in front of this guy? Who is this Zhang guy? How strong is he? He is not kneeling before this guy, but before his teacher. This means that Zhang Huang is really his senior. To get Head Zhang to voluntarily recognize him as his teacher, he must be at least a 3-star Grandmaster, or perhaps even higher. And Jiang Cheng drenched himself in tears, thinking that he thought this guy was just showing off and that his father would destroy him. But it actually happened. Furthermore, did father even kneel down? The gods want him dead, and Zhang happily thought about the moment pavilion head Zhang kneeled down, the golden book appeared. Looks like his previous hypothesis was correct. Only the sincere gratitude of a disciple could form it. With this, he would finally be able to raise his profoundness. While in the library of the heavenly path, Zhang thought about doing this before it was too late. He touched the golden book and a wind rose around him. Eyes wide open, he realized it was a state of insight. It makes it much easier to find the essence of things and their flaws. As he watched the book disappear, he thought about the fact that he had originally wanted to get these golden books to gain knowledge. There was nothing he could do about it now. He would deal with it next time. He told the men with a smile that his depth was enough now. Grandmaster Wu asked, "What does that mean?" Mo Hongyi frowned his eyebrows, thinking that did the other person really want to say that his profundity had exceeded 6.0 in the short period of time? The last check had shown 5.1. This figure shouldn't have changed. Grandmaster Wu asked what he meant that his soul depth had reached 6.0. Zhang replied that he wasn't sure, but he thought it should be enough. They could take the Epiphany Stone and test it right now. Smiling, Zhang thought about the Golden Book's ability to raise his depths. It was true that he did not know exactly how much the value had increased. After all, no one could guarantee that the previous increase of 5.0 was the maximum. Grandmaster started asking each other again. What guy doesn't know the depth of the soul? Should it be enough? Someone said that your age he has seen countless monsters and geniuses, but this is the first time he sees someone so peculiar. Grandmaster Wu said, well, he has it with him. He handed the boy the stone. Zhang clenched it in his fist. The Grandmasters began to look closely again. One of them asked that it couldn't be possible that he had actually exceeded 6.0. The other replied that who knows, if it were anyone else in his place, he would think he was bragging here. But this guy, Zhang looked at the significance in surprise. He asked, what does that mean? There were no numbers on the stone. Zhang Huang frightenedly thought that it couldn't be. Was it possible that a book could both increase and decrease its profundity? The 5.1 value that he had so carefully accumulated was nullified. He was just bragging about it, and then something like this happened. Now everyone present and beat him to death. Mo Hong said that since there are no numbers, it means that his depth of soul has not yet reached 6.0. He is not eligible to take the exam. He told Elder Zhu that there is no need to procrastinate. There was no need to start, but the pavilion head told him to take his time. He turned to Brother Zhang, asking him to let him take a look. The boy asked, what's the matter? The man looked at the stone carefully, and then he clenched it in his fist and it crumbled. The people present stared at it in shock. Grandmaster Wu thought about the fact that just like jade, the Epiphany Stone was incredibly durable. Pavilion head Zhang hadn't even moved a finger, so why did it break? Zhang Shu said that he understood. There were only two possibilities as to why the Epiphany Stone didn't show the result. Either the person is devoid of the state of insight, or their depth of soul has surpassed the range that the Stone of Insight can comprehend. That is, the result is there, the stone just cannot show it. Mo Hong asked, what was beyond his range? The head replied that the insight stones they use, known as junior insight stones, they can only recognize the soul depth of 9.0 and below, so they can only check the soul depth of grandmasters below the 3-star rank. When the soul depth level exceeds this value, the Epiphany Stone is destroyed. Grandmaster Wu asked the pavilion chief, what did he mean to say that Zhang Huang's soul depth had possibly exceeded 9.0? The man replied that it was very easy to check if his judgment was correct. He has an advanced insight stone. They will know the answer once Zhang Huang passes his test. The man handed the boy another token, asking him to test his abilities. Zhang took the stone, clenched it in his fist, and closed his eyes. The stone glowed. Opening his palm, he saw the number 10.1 on the stone. Mo Hongyi asked his depth of mind was 10.1? Wasn't it 5.1 just now? So why is that? And Zhang slyly thought about the fact that it seems like the book didn't cancel out the effect of the previous one. Everything is working as it should. It raised his soul depth by 5.0 again. Grandmaster Wu said that soul depth couldn't be raised so quickly. It was a long process that required a lot of work and effort. This value was raised unit by unit. It's very difficult to raise one's soul depth. How did he do it? Zhang didn't know what to reply. He thought about that quick increase from 5.1 to 10.1. Moreover, he himself didn't know how much his profundity would increase by. Zhang spread his hands, saying that no matter how it was, he doubted that all of them would not ask questions about it if he did not clarify everything right here and now. He really didn't know his own depth of soul, and he didn't know how much it would increase. All because when he had reached the state of serene watercladness, his mentor had sealed his soul depth, and said that this seal would be gradually removed when his strength reached a certain level. Zhang added that it must have been because his strength had increased to rank 8, that some part of his true depth of soul had returned to him, and that was why there had been such an unexpected leap. He thought about the fact that he couldn't tell about the Heaven's Path book in the library, so he blamed it all on his unimaginative mentor. Alchemist Hong thought in surprise, sealing a state of mind. Was such a thing possible? How great must be the depth of a person's soul that it had to be sealed? The deputy head thought to himself, what rank of Grandmaster would it take to be able to do such a thing? The pavilion head said that some people possessed a staggering depth of soul from birth. Emperor Kun was rumored to have the innate depth of a saint's soul, comparable to that of a 9-star Grandmaster. He was born for great deeds. Of course, he had risen to the top of the world and accomplished many great deeds. The man said that not only that, a genius appeared who had reached the serene water state at the age of 17. By the time he took the exam, his soul profundity had reached a value of 9.3, which was considered worthy of passing the 3-star level exam. He added that such talents, though rare, definitely exist. Even though the depth of a genius's soul might be high, the level of development was completely inconsistent with it, which could lead to undesirable consequences. Perhaps that was why his mentor had decided to seal his soul depth. Grandmaster Zhen thought to himself that it was no wonder why a great man like Mr. Yang took him as his disciple. Possessing such profundity from birth is an unrivaled genius who is made to be a Grandmaster. If such a person didn't die, he would definitely take her place among the 4-star Grandmasters. Mo Yu said that's what it's all about. She was thinking about the fact that soul depth was very difficult to develop. It could take decades to develop just 1 unit of soul depth. If everyone in this world started from scratch, would it be possible for 6, 7-star masters or even higher to exist? Zhang Xuan said that the arts, development, and depth of soul all match. Are there any other obstacles that should prevent him from taking the 2-star level exam? Why don't they voice them out right now so that he can prepare everything together? Grandmaster Wu replied that there was nothing else. Zhang said with a smile, since that was the case, could he pass the 2-star Grandmaster exam? Mo Hong irritably replied that of course. He thought to himself that he had already realized how imaginative this guy was, so why was he persistently trying to oppose him? Not only would he lose his reputation as the first genius of Tianwu Kingdom, he would also be considered a selfish laughingstock. Grandmaster Wu said that since all the requirements were met, they could begin the exam. The deputy head of the pavilion said that the 2-star Grandmaster exam has 5 tasks, just like the 1-star Grandmaster exam. Only the very first stage is different. He added that to pass the 2-star exam, the examiner must take a new student and establish a confidence level of 40 units in 10 days. Mo Hong asked what to accept you a new student, and Zhang clarified that after 10 days of training, increase the degree of confidence to 40. Master Guan said that the trust hall could be left for last. The 2 of them could start on other tasks. Zhang said with a smile, fine. He offered to get started, but the man told him to take his time. The man asked him if he could pass the exam after Mo Hong Yi. He's afraid something might happen to the dolls during his exam, and if that's the case, Grandmaster Mo won't be able to pass the task. Zhang awkwardly replied that yes, of course. He thought about the fact that at least he didn't have to pay for it. Watching Mo Hong Yi pass his test with the puppet with admiration, the men thought that he was rightfully considered a genius. Although his results are not as high as Zhang's, he has broken many records. Zhang, who had defeated the puppet again, awkwardly apologized, saying that he had just broken through. Can't fully control his power. The deputy started to faint, saying that this guy was the one he was afraid of. The pavilion head said that although their guild can recover puppets, it requires certain resources. When would they be able to recover from these losses? After a while, the deputy says they've passed the first 4 tasks, the last one is left, and to complete the last task, the Hall of Trust, he's giving them both 10 days each. They need to accept 1 or more disciples, and once the trust level of at least one of them reaches 40 or higher, they will officially become 2-star Grandmasters. Zhang asked if 1 student would be enough. The man replied that yes. The boy asked if he could take the exam early. The deputy head replied to take his time. There are several criteria for accepting students. At the last stage, everyone will think they are in another country. This will be to prevent trouble. The head of the hall said that within 10 days, both of them would have to find apprentices and bring their confidence level to 40 to pass the test. Lots of people would want to be trained by them. And in this position, it was too easy to reach the required confidence level. Zhang thought about the fact that their title of almost 2-star Grandmasters might get in the way. Mo Hong asked, meaning they would use a different identity. Jianshu replied that the Grandmaster Pavilion would create new alternate identities for them, and they would be sent to Tianwu Academy as ordinary teachers. Within 10 days, both of them will have to find their own students and bring their confidence level to 40 to pass the test. During this time, they have no right to reveal their identity or communicate with their acquaintances. Otherwise, the assignment will be considered a failure. The man added, as for the identity in disguise, they would give it to them tomorrow. They could familiarize themselves with the materials. Coincidentally, several teachers had left the academy as well, and recruitment for their replacements was opening tomorrow. Just so they understand, no one at the academy, including its rector, will know who they really are, so they can only count on themselves. After 10 days, they will be obligated to bring in their new students. If their confidence level reaches 40, they will be credited with passing the exam, and will be given the emblems of 2-star grandmasters. Master Guan said that they had a whole night to resolve all the issues related to their departure indefinitely. The head added that they must not tell anyone that they will be pretending. This is the only condition for the exam. Zhang asked Elder Zhu that he would like to read books that contained information about grandmasters. Could he find out where he could find them? The man replied to the library over there, however. He is only a 1-star grandmaster for now, so he has access to the 1-star library. The 2-star library is still off limits to him. There was a discussion in the city about someone breaking Mo Hongyi's records. Someone asked that there is also a senior for Pavilion Master Jiang. Is his teacher a grandmaster above 3 stars? Has he passed the 2-star grandmaster exam? Someone heard that the royal court has opened its doors for him. As he closed another book, Zhang said that there was no information on Divine Kun, and no guides on 8th rank development techniques here. 1-star grandmasters mostly possessed rank 7 development. He was added so that Divine Kun would be known as the greatest grandmaster in the world, the leaders of all grandmasters. The 1-star grandmasters had not yet earned the knowledge of him. He thought about going back. As he left the library, he thought that even if he didn't have any secret guides on the 8th rank development technique, there was a lot of material here on previous ranks. He could revise it and give it to his disciples. The next day came. Zhang Huang opened the gate to a man who came and told him that the public recruitment of Tianwu Academy was about to begin. They should hurry up, Zhang exclaimed, recognizing that this was Mo Hongyi. But now he had a different face, an older face. The prince said that this was a new identity, along with it, information about the new person's life. He handed the box to the guy. After trying on the new mask, Zhang said in surprise that it would become a second skin. He doesn't notice it at all. The Hall of Grandmasters should not be underestimated. There were other men walking in front of him. One of them asked that the academy usually recruits teachers at the beginning or end of the semester. So why was Tianwu Academy organizing the recruitment now? The other replied that classes had already started a long time ago. It had been 2 whole months. It was now the middle of the semester. Zhang asked that are they really recruiting teachers for no reason? Then what about the old ones and just kicking them out? Mo Hong replied that some teachers at the academy had left for unknown reasons, causing vacancies in their classes. Thus, they decided to hire new teachers to take over their classes and teach the lessons for them. Zhang asked in surprise, once they started work, would they be given a ready-made class? They wouldn't be choosing them themselves. Choosing on their own and taking ready-made ones are different things. He began to reason that the student had already been formed as a student. It was almost impossible to change him, and it was much easier to like a student without his own class. Mo Hong asked what he thought, that it was easier to choose a student. He looked at Zhang and said unhappily, did he really think that the teacher selection of a student was possible? It's not the beginning of the semester, so there are no students here for them to choose from. Besides, given their current personalities, it's unlikely that the students would choose them. Zhang asked, how is the division into classes at the academy? The prince was shocked. Does he think the guy doesn't know that too? At times, this guy seemed so monstrous that he drove others to despair. Other times, he seemed so innocent, pure and knowing nothing, like a newborn baby. Mo Hong said that to enter the Tianwu Academy, he must be at least in the 3rd rank realm. There are a total of 4 grades, and they correspond to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th rank respectively. Upon reaching the 6th rank, one can graduate. Most teachers have students in all 4 grades. Zhang thought about the fact that these rules were similar to those of Hongton Academy. If his previous selves didn't drive a student into a frenzied state, he would have old students too. They approached the girl who asked everyone to take a place in line. She held a pad and pencil in her hand, and told them that if they too had come to take a teaching position, have them fill out a form and take a place in line. Zhang pointed his finger behind her back, asking if he could ask if all these people had come for an interview. The girl replied that she did. There was a huge line in front of them. Zhang asked how many teachers were needed in total. The girl replied that there are only 5 seats. 3 candidates have already been recruited. There are only 2 places left. Mo Hong shockedly asked only 2. And Zhang said 100 teachers for 2 places. Zhang Huang mentally asked Mo Hong, wasn't the test supposed to increase the confidence level of the students they were accepting? Why did they suddenly impose this kind of recruitment rules all of a sudden? If they refused the interview, would it be considered an immediate failure? The prince irritably replied that such was the last stage of the title of 2-star grandmaster. Zhang asked the girl, why are these teachers still standing in line? Why did 3 of them already come? What are the requirements for the interview? The girl replied with a smile that the principal had interviewed them, and after deciding that they were suitable, he immediately accepted them. The 3 who were accepted were nearly 8th rank experts, so they were more than qualified to become teachers. Zhang shockedly asked, almost 8th rank? The principal thought that the 2 of them were pretending to be at the beginning of the 7th rank, so such a path was closed to them. The girl told them that if they had no questions, let them take a place in line. Zhang thanked. The guy standing in front of them, who had a long, thin ponytail, turned to them and asked, what were they also behind the teacher's seat? The initial stage of the 7th rank? He thinks that both of them should just leave. Mohong replied that the ability to impart knowledge is the most important ability of a teacher. If a teacher is unable to do this, what good is it if he or she has high spiritual development? But the guy grinned, calling him impertinent. He says these words for their well-being. He's afraid they're just wasting their time. Just then, 5 elders came out on the step. The chief of them, who stood in front, said that there was no need to stand in line now. Let them stand so that everyone can see. He believes that everyone here has heard about the shortage of teachers in the academy. Since they are all here for recruitment, he thinks they are all informed of the situation in their classrooms. But he will still voice it an extra time. It was the principal of Tianwu Academy, Shibi. He said that their previous teachers were Hu and Baifang. Thus, the students in these classes are outstanding individuals. He hopes to find worthy teachers among them so that their talents are not wasted. Zhang Huang looked at Mohong's surprised face and asked what does he know them. The prince replied that they are famous star teachers in Tianwu Academy and have outstanding teaching abilities. In addition, they are disciples of Pavilion Master Zhang. The prince cautiously added that with only 2 places left, this task was hard for them. Zhang shockedly said that he thought he was required to just come here and teach a few students, and he thought that 10 days was more than enough time to earn her trust. But he had expected it to be a difficult regimen, not a hellish regimen. The principal said that he knew that everyone here had extensive teaching experience and were official guild-qualified teachers. Shibi added that if he made a decision based on a few questions on their resumes, no matter who he chooses, it would be difficult for them to accept the result. Since that was the case, he would make a choice based on their learning skill. Zhang wondered, what is the learning skill? Did those 3 go through that too? And the principal added that the teacher is responsible for imparting knowledge and clarifying the doubts of the students. The main task of a teacher is to guide the student to the right path that will enable him/her to reach greater heights. The man standing next to Zhang said that a teacher's main duty is to teach. If a person is not competent in teaching, then they are useless even if they are skilled in something else. Another said that no matter how highly developed a person is, if he is unable to give his opinion, he will still be an inept teacher. This test is really suitable for conducting teacher selection. And Zhang thought shockedly, is he the only one who cares about this injustice with the first 3 teachers? Principal CB pointed his hand at the 2 young men behind his back and said that he had 2 students here, each of whom had encountered some problems. The academy will accept someone who manages to solve their problems. One of the students was a tall guy with red hair whose face was disgruntled. The second was a girl with blue hair who was very shy. The principal added that if 2 people solved the problem, the one who did it better would have priority. Who would be the first? From the crowd, the same guy with black hair called out. Zhang thought to himself, has this guy lost his fear? And now you are very dangerous. While the boy was climbing the stairs, the principal said that a teacher must have courage. It's impossible to cultivate good students with fear. Zhang irritatedly thought about how everything was like a pattern. Not only is he the center of attention, but he has already earned the principal's respect. The guy said his name was Lun Tao and he was a qualified teacher. He asked them to show him their fighting techniques. The girl went first. She struck with her hand, her foot, and again with her hands. And the guy also showed 3 punches, but only with his hands. The director said that he could comment now. Lun Tao said that the martial technique that the girl performed was called the Fast Cloud Pure Water Hands, which was characterized by its nimble yet smooth movements. Although her display of movements exuded elegance, it still lacked genki. When she moved, her movements appeared slightly tense. If he wasn't mistaken, she had recently reached the 3rd rank. Thus, she was not too proficient in the use of qi. The teacher added that her movements are skillful, beautiful, and precise, but due to the lack of qi, they are just empty movements. Lack of control ruins all her endeavors. If she becomes his student, he will first ask her to immerse herself in the development and accumulation of qi, and then suggest that she develop the pure jade technique. Lun Tao then looked at the guy and told him that he had great brute strength, so he was well suited in force-based development and combat techniques. He thinks that the art of burning bamboo is the most suitable for him. Zhang waved his hand and said that he saw it too. The man standing next to him with a thick beard said that one was better just because he took the initiative. The other said that if he said the same thing it would look pathetic. Should have gone first. The director said okay and then asked if anyone could say anything else. A man wearing a gray suit came out of the crowd and said that he would add. The crowd began to whisper that it was the teacher of Tianwu Academy, Du Xun. He is a star teacher and has already been accepted as a Grandmaster disciple. Another man said that he had attended his lessons before, that one is really incredible. It looks like they will lose another vacant seat. The man also went up on stage, saying that he had seen their battle techniques and could also tell that this student's movements were quite nimble. The teacher was right in saying that the pure jade technique suited her. However, he neglected one point. This student had only reached the 3rd rank 3 months ago, yet she had already managed to master such a powerful martial technique. Considering that she can fill her body with ki, it shows that she is talented and possesses an ability far beyond others. He added that the pure jade technique could be considered a common technique for women. With a mediocre talent, there would be no problem in developing it. However, given her high ability, developing this technique would be a waste of effort. He thought it would be better for her to train the maiden technique instead. He then said that as far as this disciple was concerned, his movements were strong. Indeed, methods based on brute force, such as the art of burning bamboo, are better suited for him. However, his movements are direct, sharp, and directed straight to the vital points. This shows that he has amazing combat experience. Although the art of burning bamboo is acceptable in terms of enhancing development, he thinks that he would be better suited to the possibility of heavenly power. This method of development is more suitable for this student. He turned to the principal and said it was a short, quick, and easy way to let him maximize his strengths. He had everything. Lun Tao clenched his teeth irritably and the principal said okay. Sei asked if there was anyone else. If not, he called out to the winners, but then a voice came out and said what he wanted. It was Mo Hongyi who, as he walked up the steps, told the principal that unless he was mistaken, the problem he had mentioned earlier did not imply their level of development, but something else. Lun Tao asked, something else? And he himself was thinking about how this was nonsense. What else is there to say besides techniques? The principal asked the guy to speak. Prince said that regardless of whether the student develops the pure jade technique or the 9 method, there wouldn't be much difference. Just like the previous teacher said, she has a lot of talent, so the difference in development technique wouldn't affect her much. He added that in addition, even if the pure jade technique was a bit weaker, she had been practicing it for many years and was familiar with it. A drastic change would hinder her progress. As long as she was given the right guidance, there would be no difference between these techniques. Thus, in his opinion, her biggest problem was not her development technique or the need to strengthen her ki realm level, but instead, her aversion to learning. Asked him what his aversion to learning is, let him continue. The men in the crowd began to say laziness. Is that something one could talk about in an exam like this? And Zhang smiled as he thought about the fact that, as expected from the #1 genius of the Tianwu Kingdom and a potential 2-star Grandmaster, he was instantly able to grasp the point. Mo Hongyi explained that this student has excellent talent, but she has a cold disposition and seems unwilling to interact with others. Since she doesn't have a bad talent, how can she still be at the 3rd rank at this age? It's obvious that she's not serious about her training. The girl turned her head away irritably. A man with a thick beard standing next to Zhang angrily said that this was indeed the case. Everyone said that her talent was great, but at the age of 16 or 17, she was at the beginning stage of the 3rd rank, and 2 past the threshold of entering the academy. Theoretically, it didn't make sense. The other said that maybe she was talented but completely disinterested in her training. The first added that he wanted to be a teacher, but didn't know he needed to brush up on psychology. And Lun Tao thought about the fact that he only sees her talent and strength. He has an unusual look, doesn't he? This girl was tired of studying, that she had become the problem the principal was talking about. He misunderstood from the beginning. No wonder the principal had such a face. And Mohong said that about the guy, if he is not mistaken, that guy is probably a very problematic young man who often engages in fights, which is the reason why he was on the verge of being expelled from the academy. The principal asked shocked how. Mohong replied that it was very simple. He had studied his fighting techniques, and although they were built from the knowledge he was gaining in class, his movements were aimed directly at vital points. He had obviously fought quite a few battles before he made his movements so fast and precise. The principal added that of course that wasn't the most important thing. More importantly, when he performs martial techniques, a wild glint appears in his eyes, and one can easily sense his killing intent. This type of troubled youth often caused trouble for the academy, so it was quite predictable that he would face the threat of expulsion. ZB thought about the fact that this guy was able to notice not only the students' weaknesses in strength, but also in their psyche. He definitely has an unusual view. The principal asked, How can these problems be solved? Mo Hong replied that since she had an aversion to learning, they should find a way to arouse her interest. On the other hand, since the student was facing the threat of expulsion, they should suppress his desire to fight with other students. These are not issues that can be resolved in a day or two. These issues require constant hard work over a period of time. The principal laughed, which is great, he's accepted. The ability to see the problem in the student's attitudes through and fighting techniques shows his insight. The principal turned to the crowd, asking if anyone else had anything to say. If not, then Teacher Sun Chung and Teacher Du Xun are being selected. The men began to reply that they don't have any objections. They can't say anything, so they better not humiliate themselves. But then, Zhang Xuan raised his hand and asked them to wait for a while. Why don't he say something? Mo Hong looked at Zhang as he walked up the stairs and thought about the fact that he had said everything he could. No matter how much of a genius he was, there was no more information he could say. Meanwhile, Zhang was thinking about how this guy had no sense of camaraderie. He might have kept silent about something so that he could talk about it. Zhang smilingly told Teacher Sun and Principal C that they had already told the purpose of the test, so he didn't need to repeat their words again. Since there was no point in repeating the words either, why wouldn't he solve these problems of these two students right on the spot? Du Xun asked the one who wanted to solve their problems now. This is nonsense. One of them has an aversion to learning while the other is on the verge of dropping out. These are the two most difficult problems a teacher can face. What solution can he offer? The principal asked how he wanted to solve this. Zhang replied with a smile that it was very simple. He approached the frightened girl, telling her not to be afraid he doesn't bite, but there was one thing he wanted to tell her. Zhang moved closer to the girl, whispering something in her ear. In the next instant, she immediately dropped to one knee, asking the teacher to accept her as his student. She is willing to learn under his tutelage. A man in the crowd asked, shocked. What happened? The other asked. Her relationship had changed so quickly. It was like two different people. And the principal asked confusedly, what had the one just done? How did he change her so quickly? Zhang replied that she was averse to studying, but it was not because of her disinterest, but because of her physical condition. He saw her problem and promised her that he would solve it, so naturally she was willing to learn from him. Du Xun asked, what was so simple? If it was about her physical condition, why didn't she mention it before? Why did she keep it to herself? And Zhang grudgingly replied that it was her private matter. She didn't want to talk about it. The principal said if that's the case, they won't talk about it. What will he do about the kid's problem? If he could make him promise not to fight with other students anymore, he would pass the selection process and the academy would accept him as an official teacher. Zhang scratched his temple thoughtfully. He asked the guy that he liked fighting others, right? He grudgingly replied that he did. So? Zhang smiled and said then it was simple. The next instant he raised his hand. He then slapped the guy hard, causing him to turn away. The boy clenched his teeth irritably and looked at the teacher. But Zhang slapped him again, but on the other cheek. Lun Tao thought fearfully. What is this guy doing? On a student it's like giving up. And the principal shouted angrily, asking what was doing here. Should have said if he was going to hit a student, but at that moment the guy fell to his knees. He looked at the teacher hopefully, thankful that he had saved him. He promised the teacher that he would never fight anyone again. All four men were shocked to think the man had saved him. Is he a masochist? And Zhang said with a smile, great, it's ready. Mo Hongyi was confused, thinking that it was one thing to simply not know the rules of the Grandmaster exam, but before teaching someone, he should have at least learned the basics. How could one take the 2-star Grandmaster exam without knowing the most basic rules? He told Teacher Liu that he couldn't be a student, and Zhang asked confusedly, who was hitting the students? He turned to the guy and asked if he was hitting him. The guy awkwardly started waving his hands, answering that he didn't. He owed the teacher a debt of gratitude. He saved him, not hit him. A man in the crowd asked how the one could be so arrogant. Another said that he thought they were all blind. A man with a bushy beard said that everyone saw him beat up that student, and the fact that he won't admit it means he intimidated him. It's cruel and shameful. The principal shouted that it was obvious that the man had intimidated him. Physically punishing students was in itself a violation of the principles of mentoring. He would report the incident to the Teachers Guild, so he could prepare for the consequences. The principal added that in addition, Tianwu Academy was not going to hire incompetent mentors like him. He could immediately remove himself. And Zhang calmly asked, what are the consequences? A violation of principles. Is this their judgment of the situation? The principal replied that it was exactly that. Zhang irritatedly asked, isn't he ashamed to call himself a 1-star Grandmaster? Honestly, he really wants to ask him if his eyesight is fine or not. Lun Tao thought in shock that this guy had just insulted Principal Z. He beat up a student and insulted a 1-star Grandmaster. Are you crazy? Du Xun was also shocked, thinking about the fact that the insulted person was the principal of Tianwu Academy. He is considered the first in strength in the academy. On top of that, it's also a 1-star Grandmaster. To say that he's blind, CB irritatedly told Teacher Liu that he had insulted Grandmaster. Zhang asked, "Is he insulting Grandmaster? Who is really insulting the title of Grandmaster is him, not Zhang." The principal began to get even angrier, accumulating his strength in his hand. And Zhang said the blood-spoiling spider. It is a unique beast that is only the size of a phalanx of a finger. It feeds on the blood of living creatures and prefers dark, cold places. It usually only moves in darkness, but more importantly, its venom is deadly. Zhang added that if a warrior is exposed to this poison, he dies far from immediately. It affects his nerve endings and changes his personality. A person becomes aggressive. He is seized by the idea of searching for the enemy, and all because only during the battle, the burning from the poison in the blood is not so tangible. Mo Hongyi shockedly thought, "Does such a thing really exist? What a strange poison." Zhang pointed at the guy and said that this disciple had fallen under the effects of the poison quite a long time ago. Therefore, he couldn't help but fight with the others to suppress his rage. Didn't they all notice his red eyes behind his deadly and precise movements? Zhang added that no matter how many battles a warrior had fought, fighting did not affect his state of mind or change the color of his eyes. Lun Tao said that he also noticed the redness, but he thought it was because of excitement. Du Xun said that he saw it as well. He thought it was the uniqueness of his martial technique, but was it actually all because of the deadly poison? The headmaster was still annoyed, asking how was that possible? If he had been poisoned all this time, why hadn't any of them noticed it? Zhang replied that was why he said he was blind. Just now he didn't just beat him, he used a unique method to expel the poison from his body. If he didn't believe him, he could look at the blood left on the floor. There was smoking blood on the stone slab. The director asked, shocked, "Is the stone slab burned through?" CB thought about the fact that it was really poison. There was indeed a deadly poison in the disciple's blood. And Teacher Liu just now wasn't beating him. He was taking this poison out of his blood. Zhang Huang said that usually people die after 3 months of being poisoned by the venom of a blood spider. Judging from the disciple's condition, he had been under the influence for about a month, so he was in no danger. All he needs to do now is to suppress the remnants of the poison. Zhang asked loudly, running an academy in the Tianwu Kingdom. How could the principal not know that one of his students was poisoned with a deadly poison? How could he accuse him of beating up a student after he saved his life and even threatened to report him to the Teachers Guild? He's the academy's headmaster and one-star grandmaster. How could he not have noticed anything at all? So could he ask if his eyesight was all right? GB excitedly thought about the fact that he obviously didn't notice that the disciple had been poisoned. But then Mo Hong told Teacher Liu to calm down. Poison masters are a very rare profession. Not many people have heard of the effects of poisons. It's only natural not to know such a thing. And the prince himself was thinking that to realize that a disciple had been poisoned by just one martial technique, and to help him right there, it could mean that Zhang Huan's knowledge in this field surpassed the level of a grandmaster. A 3-star painting master, a 2-star tamer, an outstanding alchemist that surpasses the level of a 4-star alchemist. What other skills could this guy be hiding up his sleeve? He thought that the one surpassed him in pill-making and mentoring, that it was all limited to that. However, after what happened, he realized that this man was also skilled in many other things. He just doesn't show it. But Zhang still said that even though the headmaster didn't understand anything about the deadly poison, this disciple thanked him for saving him. And yet, he still chose to blame him. Is this what a 1-star grandmaster's judgment should be like? The principal guiltily said that it was because he wasn't observant enough. He doesn't deserve the title of 1-star grandmaster. Zhang patted the principal on the shoulder that he shouldn't be so upset. Let him just continue to study diligently, and not draw such definite conclusions without assessing the situation. Lun Tao, Du Xun, and Mo Hong thought shockedly that this was the headmaster of Tianwu Academy, and he treats him like some student being just an ordinary teacher. This is too much. But then Zhang awkwardly asked if he would accept him as a teacher. The principal frightenedly replied that of course he was accepted into the academy. And I myself think that if he is not accepted to the academy with such significant abilities, he is not worthy of the title of academy director. The backyard of Tianwu Academy. A guy with purple hair came to the gazebo calling out to Sister Xue. The girl who sat at the table, Mu Shuiqing, asked Meng Tao if he had learned anything. Was the man reliable? The guy replied that yes, he had made sure of it. Meng Tao cheerfully said that Grandmaster Zhang Huang was simply incredible. In fact, from what he had learned, he was even more magnificent than she had thought. However, he was currently taking the 2-star Grandmaster exam and had briefly left for the capital. He also learned his affairs are even better than they were this morning. The girl turned away from the guy again, resting her head on her arm, and sadly said that it would be great if he was their teacher. Meng Tao said that Grandmaster Zhang Huang is a person who is going to become a 2-star Grandmaster. Can the academy afford to hire him? The girl replied that she understood everything, but she couldn't get her hopes up. She would very much like to listen to at least one of his lectures. Given his talent, His lecture should be very informative and interesting. Maybe she could even make a breakthrough in her development just by attending one. The girl looked at the guy again. Asked what isn't the academy hiring teachers today? Have the results already been announced? The boy replied that not yet. There are not enough star teachers. All those who came are just ordinary mentors. He doubts that such people can teach them well. That's when another girl came running over to them, yelling horrible bad things. Musha King asked, what was the panic? Didn't she ask her to keep an eye on the elders' hall and see who would be accepted as a teacher? Why did she come back so early? Musha King stood up and asked, have they already chosen a teacher? The panting girl replied that they had. She added that she saw the principal pass their class teacher's sign to the young mentor. But more, Musha King couldn't wait, asking what else did she see. The girl replied that this teacher had beaten the student to the point where he started spitting blood. Meng Tao looked at Sister Shui, asking that he had beaten a student so badly that his mouth was bleeding. The girl said that the academy never allowed such a thing. Musha King asked the girl, did she really mean to say that the principal had handed over the leadership of them to this person? The girl said yes. Grabbing the brooch, he immediately headed towards their classroom. So he'll be here soon. Musha King thought to herself, didn't the Teachers Guild forbid physical punishment of students? How could such a person appear in the academy? Meng Tao asked if it was possible that the academy found their class unsupervised, so they had found a teacher willing to teach them a lesson and drum obedience into them. Musha King headed forward, telling the guy to tell everyone to gather in the classroom. They need to discuss everything. After a small amount of time, when everyone was gathered in the large classroom, Musha King said what she thought. Meng Tao had already told them what had happened. The academy hired a teacher who beats up students to teach them. So, how do they feel about it? Someone replied that if he becomes their teacher, their lives will be hell. He is against it. The girl asked what can they do. The academy has already assigned him to them, unless they send a request to the administration to change the teacher. Otherwise, there's no way they can influence what's going on. The other said that they might not have a genius like Grandmaster Zhang. At least they could count on a star teacher. When learning from this aggressive man, their future could be buried in advance. Someone asked, what kind of teacher are they worthy of? They are students. If they want to intentionally compromise their teacher, they will definitely be punished. What can they do? They can't do anything to their teacher, but they can ask questions, right? There are students in their class who are interested in painting, tea ceremony, formations, forging, pill making, and they can ask about everything. If the teacher can't answer, they'll see if he has the nerve to stick around. Someone said it's a good idea. Not only would it not be considered an attack on the teacher, but it would make him ashamed. But couldn't he just say that he wasn't familiar with these areas of knowledge? If so, their plan will fail. Meanwhile, Zhang walked to the big door, thinking that his class should be here. Musha King slyly said that she had already thought about it. They could just put a little pressure on him. When he comes here, she would say that she met Grandmaster Zhang Huang and he was so impressed that he was going to take her as his disciple. The other guy said that he would probably get discouraged, broken by the thought that he knew absolutely nothing. The girl standing next to him said, except that if Grandmaster Zhang found out that they used his name, wouldn't they be in trouble? Musha King replied that Grandmaster Zhang is an unrivaled genius. Besides, he is practically a 2-star Grandmaster already. Maybe they won't meet him once in their lives. Does anyone know enough about him, despite all the fame he gained in just a few days, making him the talk of every corner? Musha King loudly told everyone that when this teacher appeared, let them make sure they didn't show any signs of aggression. Everyone should treat him with respect without overdoing it. Everyone responded with a chorus of yes. One guy asked the older one that did she really meet the Grandmaster yesterday, and he said that he wanted to invite her as his disciple. The other guy said that if the elder becomes his apprentice, he should arrange for them to meet. He's a devoted fan of his. Did Zhang standing outside the door think she had met him, and he was going to take her as his student? He had never met her before. He had spent all day yesterday at the Grandmaster Pavilion and came here right after leaving the library. Thus, how could he have met a student of Qianwu Academy? And the girl said that Grandmaster Zhang was currently on a mission to take the 2-star Grandmaster exam, and would be a 2-star Grandmaster by the time he returned. Although it would be difficult, she would beg him to give them a lecture. Just then a girl asked the man behind Musha King's back, who is he? Zhang said with a smile that he had come under the academy's orders to become their teacher. Musha King turned to look at him, and thought about the fact that he was their teacher. After hearing that he had beaten up a student, she thought that the teacher would be a big man. All the students immediately bowed to him with a smile, showing their respect for the teacher. Zhang said his name is Liu Cheng. They can all call him Teacher Liu. From now on, he will guide them on their path of development. He asked Mu Xueqing, which meant that she had really met Teacher Zhang. Could he recognize what someone looked like? The girl shuddered, and then replied that really it was just luck. He is a little taller than Teacher Liu, and he has a muscular build and an adorable smile. When she met him, the latter was wearing green clothes. He gives off the impression of a person untainted by the world, like a deity in the heavens. Zhang thought to himself, he was just an ordinary person. What else is this deity? And himself replied that based on his knowledge, if a 2-star Grandmaster intends to accept a disciple, many will fight for the opportunity. Furthermore, Grandmaster Zhang is a genius, so there should be many talented students interested in coming under his tutelage. And so, why did he decide to accept her specifically as his disciple? Musha King replied that she had helped him in a small matter yesterday, and after realizing that her talent was acceptable, Grandmaster Zhang decided to accept her. As for the details, she doesn't know anything else. Zhang said that since Grandmaster Zhang is willing to accept her as an ordinary teacher, he does not consider himself worthy to compete with him. She has the right to choose her teacher. He took out a token from his pocket and held it out to the girl. Da frightenedly thought to herself, shouldn't Teacher Liu treat her better after hearing that Zhang Huang was interested in accepting it? Why such a reaction? Zhang said he didn't mean anything by it. It just means that she is banished. Mu Shuqing asked, is he kicking her out? Is he making a joke? The girl thought she was a genius. No matter where she went, all the teachers would want to take her under their tutelage. But kicking her out after seeing her for the first time? Zhang Huang said that he did not joke about such things. As a student, instead of studying, she decided to use trickery to deceive her teacher. What good would it do her? Let her not worry. He will report it to the academy and have them publish an announcement to let all the students know about it. She is free to leave to Grandmaster Zhang. Mu Shuqing irritably thought about the fact that she knew that this teacher was strange, but this was too much. She assumed that even if the teacher didn't believe that she was familiar with Grandmaster Zhang, he would at least be startled. After all, what if she was actually acquainted with Zhang Xuan? In that case, even the headmaster had to start taking her more seriously. Mu Shuqing clenched her teeth in anger, thinking that he had no reason to kick her out. If a bad grade in the qualifying exam was the most shameful thing for a teacher, expulsion would be the equivalent for a student. Even if development reached a high level, this stain would stay with her no matter where she went. The girl shouted that she wasn't fooling the teacher. Zhang asked, she wasn't fooling him. First of all, when he walked in, she, as a rank 6 practitioner, didn't notice him at all. Instead, she continued chatting with the others. Did she think that carried a certain meaning? Zhang added that she chose to blatantly ignore the teacher's presence, which violates Clause 17 of Tianwu Academy's student rules, disrespecting the teacher. In serious cases, this can be grounds for expulsion. Zhang said that on top of telling her that she knows Grandmaster Zhang. If this is true, it means that she is using Grandmaster Zhang's reputation to oppress him. According to paragraph 42 of the student rules, using her support to disrespect and threaten a teacher is forbidden. In serious cases, it could be grounds for expulsion. On thumbs-up days, he said that if it's not true, it means she's lying to her teacher. This violates paragraph 45 of the student rules about spreading false rumors and deceiving a teacher. It could also be grounds for expulsion. Regardless of what they talk about, if they act strictly according to the rules, she will be expelled. What else would she want to say to him? Zhang Huang thought about the student rules of Tianwu Academy hanging all over the academy. On his way to class, he had passed by them many times and memorized them well. This bunch of kids wanted to intimidate their teacher, so they need to show them that he wasn't someone to joke around with. Mu Shuqing thought shockingly about the fact that he had just arrived at the academy after all. More importantly, she thought that this person was used to solving issues by force. So he has a sharp tongue and a good mind. Zhang sternly told the girl to take her things and leave. He welcomes students with their own opinions and thoughts, but not those who rebel and incite others. One girl who had short hair said that Senior Mu was the most talented student in their class. Even though she only turned 18 this year, she has already reached the 6th rank. She is their role model, so they begged the teacher to rescind his decree. Zhang looked at the girl and asked that most talented student, a role model? She started practicing at the age of 7. From then on, it had been 11 years. During that time, she had consumed 3 acupuncture calming pills and 10 other pills, but even so, she had only managed to open 12 acupuncture points, giving her a strength of 16 ding. Zhang added that even though she had studied the smooth water palm for 3 years, she had not been able to excel in it. She has not become an expert in this technique and cannot utilize its full power in battle. In addition, at least 7 of her acupuncture points are completely sealed with muddy qi, making it difficult for her to advance. Even reaching rank 7 would be a huge obstacle for her. Zhang sternly asked, could this be called a talent? Mu Shuqing thought about how the excessive amount of pills she had consumed in the past few years had caused poison to accumulate in her body, making it difficult for her to advance. Otherwise, she could have gotten her diploma a long time ago. She wouldn't have had to stay in the academy all this time. Was he really not an aggressive teacher but really had incredible abilities? One guy shouted out that in the academy's previous tournament, Senior Mu came in 10th place. She's one of the most talented in the academy, and everyone agrees on that. Why does he say she's not a genius? Zhang replied that genius was not determined by how far a person could advance over a huge period of time, but how far they could go. That she had reached the 6th rank at such an age was unbelievable. But because the pills left poison in her, and that she trained based on their effects, her future growth is very limited. Zhang, as if pleased, added that she is not a genius. In fact, they are all in a much better position than her. Even if the guy's development level is only at the beginning stage of rank 4, he has trained his physical body well, and his state of mind is also stable. He wouldn't be wrong to say that there's a door tamer in his family who used a wild beast blood essence to help him raise his development. He told the surprised guy that such a method was similar to using drugs to raise strength, but since the blood essence of the wild one was more compatible with the human body, not only would it not hinder his progress, but it would even make his muscles more dense, which would also increase his strength. The guy didn't know what to answer, and Zhang turned to the other young man that he has a reserved character and is enveloped by the aura of a figure of science and arts. In addition, he sees a few calluses between his thumb and middle finger. He doesn't think they originated from studying martial techniques. If he is not mistaken, the one is fond of painting and often imitates the drawings of experts. However, unfortunately, his gaze is not deep enough, causing him to fail to grasp the essence and spirit of what he sees. If he continues to paint in the same spirit, it is unlikely that he will ever create a canvas-level painting of spiritualization or fulfilled intention. The guy with freckles on his cheeks was surprised, and Zhang started to say that the next one was fond of tea ceremony. Another chose to specialize as an alchemist. The third devoted himself to training, so he didn't choose any auxiliary profession. Mu Xueqing was stunned, thinking about what was going on. This was not what she had expected. Why does he know everything at all? He's some kind of monster. Elder Hall. Someone had said that Teacher Baifan's class was one of the best in the entire academy. I wonder if Teacher Liu will be able to subdue and make these students behave obediently. The elder with the mousy hair and beard replied that he was afraid it would be difficult. Those students are quite troublesome. Have they forgotten the teachers they sent them before? Another replied that Mu Xueqing is the best student, the only daughter of a 2-star alchemist. She is a treasure, has a high level of development and many other talents, but isn't analyzing the most troublesome. The man with a dark bushy beard replied with a smile. Otherwise they wouldn't have to announce public recruitment, especially this class. The academy had sent them a few teachers before, but none of them had lasted more than a few days before being kicked out. Another elder said that there was no certainty that this teacher would be able to subdue them without any problems. He even pressed their principal, who knows how he would behave with the students. The man with a thick beard replied that if this brave teacher was going to solve the problem with his fists here too, he didn't know what would happen next. Do they all think they will fight? Someone replied that if it was any other teacher, fearing the Teachers Guild and considering their personality, he wouldn't dare to raise his hands on the students. However, they couldn't say the same about Teacher Liu. They decided they needed to look at it. Coming out from around the corner, the elders saw Mu Xueqing kneeling in front of the door. The elder ran up to her fearfully, asking why she was kneeling outside. Let her get up quickly. They will deal with her teacher. The girl shouted that she couldn't. She had done wrong, so she deserved to be punished. If she stood up now, Teacher Liu would probably expel her. In that case, how would she be able to meet her father? The elder asked, shocked that she deserved to be punished. Had she done wrong? And to himself, he thought to himself, Mu Xueqing is the little girl admitting the mistake, sitting on her knees, and the girl fearfully said that indeed. After Teacher Liu's instruction, she had realized her shortcomings and was willing to study under his tutelage. She told the elder that there was no need to persuade her anymore. The black-haired elder asked Elder Bai if it was possible that Teacher Liu had already started. The latter replied that this student had also changed his attitude after the beating. Could it be that the same thing happened to Mu Xueqing? That's when the door opened. Meng Tao appeared on the doorstep and told the senior that the teacher was asking her to come in. The girl, shocked, asked if it was true. The one replied that it was. The black-haired elder said that she didn't seem to have been beaten. Another elder replied that if she had been beaten, she should have at least some injuries. Even if she wasn't injured, she should have resented the person who had beaten her. However, she had become agitated to the point of getting so agitated over a simple permission to enter. The man asked the guy if he was Meng Tao. The guy looked at the elders in surprise. The elder asked the boy that did Teacher Liu really inflict any physical punishment on him. The boy incomprehensibly replied that Teacher Liu was a very kind person. Why should he use physical punishment? Secondly asked, what happened to Mu Xueqing then? The guy replied that Senior Mu did it of her own volition. The teacher made her pack up her things and leave this class. The elder did not want to. Thus, she kneeled outside, hoping that the teacher would change her mind. The elder thought in surprise that based on their previous experience, if the teacher dared to speak to her like this young girl would have already rushed into the elder's hall to raise everyone's ears. Why was she silent this time, and even willingly kneeling at the door? The guy told the elders that Teacher Lu was still teaching a class, so he should go back. The elders were left alone, shocked. An elder with black hair asked that is this really the most unruly and troublesome class of the academy? Another elder asked that could someone tell him what was going on? Zhao Yao asked Grandmaster Lu, what about the head teacher? When will he come back after the second exam? Thoth replied to the girl that he didn't know. He had heard today that Thoth had flipped town, but would be back within 10 days. The girl sadly replied that it was that long. The pomegranate master said it all depends on how the 10 days are spent. He could take them around and show them the city. Yuan Dao immediately asked cheerfully, when could they go? Grandmaster Liu stood up and asked with a smile, why doesn't he take them all to Qianwu Academy? It is the greatest academy in the 13 surrounding kingdoms, a sacred land for practitioners. From time to time, grandmasters from the pavilion are sent there to give lectures. It might be useful for them to have a look at this place. Zhao Yao asked in surprise, grandmasters give lectures there? Yang Li said that teacher Zhang wouldn't be back before 10 days anyway, so it would be good to take a look at this place. Some of them said that they had heard that the academy promoted a free learning environment, so they could attend any teacher's class without having to inform them in advance. Someone added that it would be nice to listen to other teachers' lectures. Entering the classroom, Mu Shuiqing shockingly thought about the fact that not even 2 hours later, almost all the students in the room had advanced far in their development. He solves people's problems with simple hints. Whatever the problem is, he easily solves it with a single tip. How can that be? The teacher is amazing.